We do this too, we're bringing that fire. Talking real talk, Kentucky's on fire. From bourbon to ball games, we got that flow. On the We Do This Too podcast, yeah, you know. From country roads to the city lights, they bring the heat, man, every night. We do this too, let's make it clear. If you ain't listening, you ain't here.
Welcome back, y'all. It's another edition of the We Do This Too Outdoors podcast. And as always, we are presented to you in partnership with brands that we feel represent the very best of the outdoor industry. So before we get started, we'd like to give a special shout out to Moultrie Products, Ullers Archery, Threads Custom Bowstrings, G5 Outdoors, Blackburn Apparel Company, Deer Pip Scents and Lures, Vision Clothing, Bluebird Waterfowl Company, Angry Chicken Outdoors, Alps Outdoors, and last but certainly not least, a special shout out to the good folks over at Briley's for leaving a legacy of shooting innovation. Whether you need new cameras to elevate the scouting experience, new arrows, or anything for your archery setups, clothing, scent, or whatever it may be, as a supporter of the podcast, you can use promo code WDTT promo. That's WDTT promo for 15% off anything on the website at ullersarchery.com. Some exclusions may apply. With that being said, let's dive into another episode of the We Do This Too Outdoors podcast with your host, Mr. Courtney Williams. What's up, guys? Welcome to another edition of the We Do This Too Outdoors podcast. Host Courtney Williamson. I've got a super special guest on today, Bucks of America podcast owner and operator, Mr. Jeff Vance. How you doing, brother?
Dude, I am on cloud nine. I got an exciting weekend coming ahead of us, so it's gonna be pretty badass.
I'm glad, man. Yeah, I've been kind of checking out some of your socials and checking out your podcast, man. You're doing awesome things for the outdoors. Very, very proud of everything that you've done and everything that you're out there saying and everything that you're advocating for, for us outdoorsmen. So thank you. Kudos to you for that. And I tell everybody this I have on the podcast, man, if there's anything that I can ever do for you going forward, just let me know, brother, because, we're in this together. We're all on the same team. We all have the same passion, and as much as we can grow this outdoor industry, the better, man.
Oh, I don't know if you're leaving that open for me to talk or what's going on. So I want to say you're welcome, man. It's been a journey. Been a very humbling journey about all the things I've gotten to accomplish. And it just all comes down is creating that mission that you want to achieve in your later years, your 40s and your 50s and such. And I just kind of developing that dream to come true. And it's been a grind, but man, I'm loving it.
That's awesome, man. So how long have you been podcasting for? How long have you had your podcast on so far?
So it'll be 2019, 2018.
2018. So you got quite a few episodes under your belt, man.
I do. I have been kind of a little bit more laxed over the last few months. I've been trying to focus on doing more live content, but it's I wasn't able to get as much as I wanted during each of these episodes or the events I attended. So now I am doubling up my efforts to get back on track and getting that consistency down again, that I once had.
Yeah, that's I try to stay pretty consistent because, like I said, I'm on Sportsman's Empire network of podcasts with Dan Johnson. So he wants a podcast pretty much every Monday. So yeah, I got to pretty much stay on top of everything and make sure I have guests and make sure it's quality people that I like and enjoy the content and
wonderful.
Try to make sure the conversation isn't just bland and just I don't want to say if I get to the point where I'm just having guests on just to fill a quota, like that's when I know that I'm not doing my job. Like I don't want to feel like just I have to put a podcast out there just to fill a quota. Like I want to be interested in the person. I want to be I want to be hands on with everything. And so far, man, I love hearing people's stories of how they grew up in the outdoors. Listen to people's stories, stuff like that, man. And it's been an awesome journey so far. I'm only a couple of years in. I think I'm 51 or 52 episodes in so far, but I'm loving the journey, man. Absolutely love it.
Wonderful. I'm looking forward to. Do you have any trips, or have you gone on any trips with any of your guests yet?
I have not. Me and Trey's got some. Well, yeah, me and Trey and Jay, what we call ourselves the New Jack Archers. We went to Oklahoma. I shot a 3D course out there, but other than them two, we haven't really done anything. We've got some. Me and a couple of people have some things in the works for later in October and November around that time. So hopefully it still comes to fruition for us. But I didn't get to hunt last year because of a work injury.
Oh,
so,
do tell. What you may have already told your audience this, but I'm not familiar with what your injury.
So really can't talk a lot about it, but I'm cleared now. But basically, I got hurt at work. I got a concussion, a very heavy concussion, like the highest protocol concussion that there is, or whatever it's called, mild, concussion 5 or whatever it's called. Knocked me out for like 10, 15 minutes. Woke up in the ambulance, thought something was biting my arm. And I woke up and the nurse is trying to find the vein in my arm. And I said, lady, I'm not trying to be rude or anything. I said, if you stick me one more time, you're about to be out on the highway.
Man, she must have been missing the mark quite consistently, huh?
Yeah. And like it says in my, if something ever happens to me, it's hard to find a vein anyway in me, which I don't understand. But they usually have to go through my hand, which freaking hurts. But yeah, basically I was sidelined all the last year because of that. So finally got cleared, good to go. So I'm looking to do a lot of hunting this year. I missed out on a lot last year. It was one of those things like, the passion that we have for the outdoors, you want to be out there as much as you can. And then when you get sidelined and you can't be out there, it just kind of, I wouldn't say it slips you into, it probably could slip me into depression, but I had my wife here, my kid, and people uplifting me, but like I was trying to stay off social media as much as possible, which didn't happen because my buddies would text me, man, I just killed a freaking boner, or I just killed this, and I just killed this, and limited ducks. And
okay,
you're just looking at your phone like, man, I wish I'd be out there with them, but I'm like, I'll get back out there soon enough, get better. I don't want to push it too, I didn't want to break the protocol where the doctor said, hey, you don't need to be outdoors. And then I do go outdoors and something happens where I'm sidelined for longer,
That's definitely respectable. I can understand that to the fullest. Like concussions are no joke when it comes down to it. I've listened to the several podcasts with Dale Earnhardt Jr. and he had to quit due to quit racing, but he now is able to at least go bow hunting. He's still an avid outdoorsman on that aspect of it, but it's a dangerous thing. And he was explaining that after his third concussion, in between his last race and when he received it, or his fourth concussion, took like, I don't know, 200 some odd days to finally get out of the water. It is an unforgivable injury. It's very difficult to heal from. And the thing is, you just don't know how long it's going to take for you to recover.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Cause I was having some real bad headaches, real bad, it's like seeing dark spots, stuff like that, getting dizzy. And I'm like, why am I still dizzy, man? It's been, 5 months, and then 6 months rolled around, 7 months, 8 months. I'm like, what the heck's going on? So my doctor finally told me to go to physical therapy for 6 weeks. And those guys at physical therapy, man, they have so many ways of helping you. And I'm just like, well, how is physical therapy going to help me? Those guys, I'm telling you, like if you ever get like a concussion or something, those physical therapists, man, they know their stuff. And within those 6 weeks, man, my symptoms left me. I still have headaches every now and then. They're really mild though, but shout out to those guys. But I'm back and I'm ready to get back in the woods in September. Dove season opens up 1st of September, and so does deer season, archery season here in Kentucky, man. So I am chomping at the bit because it's already in July. Got one more month in August, and boom, we're there. So I'm excited.
That is exciting, man. Now, since you've gone through this injury, have you been adjusting your vitamins? Have you to help with to heal for recovery for TBI?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I had to adjust my vitamin intake and the vitamins that I was taking. So I'm taking a couple more different supplement vitamins now than I was. Went back to the doctor for a checkup. Everything was good. So back on the grind, back in the gym, and trying to put because I was off for 8 months and really couldn't go to the gym much, so I gained like 30 pounds just sitting at home, like eating and whatever. So once I got back into physical therapy, that's all I was doing was pretty much lifting the whole time. So it kind of got me back in that mood and that grind, man. So I try to stay, try to stay hydrated, drinking my good old, H2O, trying to get at least a gallon and a half in a day, taking my vitamins, trying to not eat as many sweets as I used to, trying to eat a little bit cleaner so I can kind of drop this 30 pounds off. And hopefully not this season, but next season, I'm going to try to go elk hunting somewhere. And I don't want to die on the mountain because I'm out of shape.
That is a solid goal to go through. I sat down with a gentleman, his name is Austin Lester's, about 2-3 years ago. And he is, at the time, I'm not sure if he still is, but he is part of Utah's mountain rescue. And I spent, several hours doing research on like questions to ask when you're going to be going in the backcountry and such. And it's probably one of my favorite conversations that I had. It's one of my top 5, maybe top 10 that I've had on the podcast, where I really just wanted to give somebody an opportunity, if they listen to it, it's something to plan for and really to think about. Because if it's your first time or if it's your second or third, it's always good research to find out other perspectives that you aren't aware of. And when you're taught, when I had a chance that deals with it on the day-to-day or season by season, it was really interesting on what to prepare for, what to look out for. That's been a couple of years, so I have to actually go back myself and listen to it. But I do know that was 90% of the conversation was in preparation for it.
Yeah, anything you do, I come from a sports background, so played basketball, baseball growing up. So that prep that you did leading up to your next game, the throwing aspects of it, the hitting aspects, the shooting aspects of it, to make sure that your body is prepared, to go those 9 innings or those 4 quarters that you need to go through. And then not on top of that, the training that you got to go through. And on top of that, the eating, back when I was a kid, I feel like I could eat whatever I wanted to. But I know if I ate like a hamburger the night before a game, I felt terrible the next day. But if I ate some type of carbs like pasta or something like that, I felt energized. I felt good to go. It's just those little things that you put into it, the preparation that you got to do now, And, elk hunting, coming from here in Kentucky, if I'm going, we coming from rolling hills out here. When I go to Colorado or Montana or somewhere out there, not only is the terrain different, but the air is different. So those are 2 things that you're going to have to prepare for. I don't know if you can prepare for the air, but I can definitely prepare for the terrain. So
I can answer that question for you because there is a product that I got recommended. Are you familiar with Mountain Archery Fest?
Oh, absolutely.
So do you ever have a chance to make one or go out to an event?
No, I haven't. Trey's been a couple times, but I've never got to go out to one.
Oh, bummer. You would have had a blast. They're a lot of fun. They're extremely challenging, but in preparation to go out there, I had Brandon Waddell on my podcast, and I was asking him questions about being in preparation to be able to do that, and regarding the oxygen levels and what would be necessary to be able to survive and do a good job. But it's from Wilderness Athlete, and it's their where is it? It's their altitude something.
Is it the mask that you put on? Because I've seen those.
No, this is actually a supplement that you take to be able to increase the amount of oxygen in your blood cells to be able to perform at a high level when you're going above 10,000 feet. Because I never had been above that height. So I wanted to find out what I needed to know to be able to compete, to survive at the level. Well, he recommended, it's called Altitude Advantage. It's underneath the performance section, and it's a month's supply. And what I did is I followed the instructions to a T, but what I did is I made sure my last dose was going to be taken on the last day while I was out there. And by doing that and being able to, and walking like uphill, downhill, anything, you just don't do it on a treadmill because you need your ankle to adjust to different pitches. So this way you develop strength in them. Otherwise you could roll your ankle and you'll hate life, or something bad could happen to you out there as well.
Right. Okay. I'm going to have to look it up.
Oh, for sure. I will. Let's see here. I'll drop it in your chat.
Sounds good.
This way then you'll be able to check it out for later. It's $40. It's well worth it, but it will definitely help it. A friend of ours, Trent Crumpler, I met him out in Utah back in 2023, and he got altitude sickness because he wasn't used to that high. He's at the time was basically traveling to all of the Mountain Archery Fest events. And so that's what he basically lived off of. So this way he can survive as he's going up and down the mountains and stuff for setup, down, audio, video, whatever Brandon needed him to accomplish. He would be a good guy to have in your podcast. I bet he's in on my podcast a few times. Very knowledgeable. He's got a phenomenal series on YouTube and Facebook and TikTok where he really gives you a perspective, experience, vast full of knowledge on the product and such, and he really knows his stuff, and it's just he'd be a phenomenal guest to have. I don't know if he's been on your podcast yet, but
he hasn't.
He'd be worth it. He's a wonderful man.
Awesome, man. Well, let's deep dive into this thing, Jeff.
Sure.
Take us back to the beginning. What first got you into the outdoors?
Oh man, you're asking the same questions I've asked before. So, oh man, this would have to date back in the early 90s when I got interested in hunting. My dad was not a big hunter. Come to find out, after years later, he's always preferred to fish, but he had a group of friends that kind of peer pressured him into doing it. And as I got older and such, and seeing him go out there, I wanted to cut my teeth on something. So he had a friend of his that really liked going around driving the back roads. We'd go after rabbit and squirrel and pheasant. So that's where I was able to get immersed in the outdoors. I mean, spending, I don't know, 5-6 hours driving around. Now, keep in mind, this is the 90s, so gas was cheap. So you're talking 60, 70 cents a gallon. So, and we just kind of drove around and kind of put it in first gear and bounced around the countryside of Iowa. So it was fun. You know, it's cold. What was a really fun tradition. They don't do it anymore, unfortunately, because either most of them are too old or they passed away. But what they would do is the last day of the season, we'd all get together and we have like 3 or 4 teams, which would be cars. And we would just drive around. Come to find, like in my car, it's like the adults just drove around drinking while I was out hunting, shooting all the rabbits and squirrels and stuff like that. And we had we had a point scale for each animal. And there was whoever lost had to buy, beverages of some sort. And this one time, I think this would probably have been 97, 98, actually maybe 99. One of the guys had a 22. And he must have had like a 34 grain or something like that. He shot a rabbit in the head. And once we all met up for lunch, he asked us all to come out, open up the back hatch, and here is a rabbit just like this, just walking around. Yeah. So what it ended up doing is the round ricocheted off its skull. So that's why myself, I like to go with the 410, the 2.5-inch shell.
Yeah.
You just wait. It's one of those things where it's like, I want to make sure when I shoot, the animal's going to die. And I've cooked enough rabbits that it's not difficult to remove all the pellets. It just sucks when you miss one, you bite into it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I grew up same way. My dad, was a big rabbit hunter, big quail hunter, big dove hunter, but he was also a big fisherman. So my first gun that I ever took out to the woods with him was a 410 single shot, and removing all those pellets out of those, was a task at times. And like you said, you bite into one, you'll know it's in there. But I got pretty good over the years at getting those pellets out of there and learning how to deep fry that rabbit. That's, to this day, it's still one of my favorite foods to have. It's nothing like a deep fried rabbit. I love it. I don't know how you prepare yours, but that's how we do it down here. So,
if there's a way to prepare rabbit, I've done it from deep frying it, like you had mentioned, to baking it, to put in soups, grilling it. I've really had a chance to really explore that meat, and it's just a fun, tasty meat to cook up. Very easy to do it. The only thing is you just can't survive off of them because there's just not enough fat.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So as you got into the outdoors a little, as you're older, I don't know how old you are, but as you started getting more of a passion into the outdoors, like who were some of the influences that you looked up to? So who were some of the names that you would watch on TV or read about in magazines, stuff like that?
Oh man, Babe Winkleman was he's from Minnesota, so his main demographic was all right here in the upper Midwest: Minnesota, South Dakota, North Dakota, Iowa, Illinois. He go over to Michigan too. Loved hunting, fish, and such. But he was kind of like the big celebrity in the Midwest when it comes down to fishing. I mean, I've been watching him since the late '80s, reading his articles and such, and he doesn't do a whole lot of traveling. He's now in his mid 70s, upper 70s, so he sticks closer to home. But every once in a while, you'll catch him going to an event. Like he was at Bowfest a couple of years ago, but he's been kind of keeping a lower profile and focusing on the grandkids.
That's awesome. Yeah, my big guy growing up was Michael Waddell. I think it's being from here in Kentucky. He's a Georgia boy. So everything that I watched here in Kentucky, if it wasn't Kentucky Afield, it was something on the Outdoor Channel at the time. I can't remember exactly what show it was. It was before, I want to say it was before he got with Bone Collector. He was still doing a lot of turkey calling championships and stuff like that. But like he was one of the main people that I first seen. And I still follow him to this day. Met him 3 or 4 times at NWTF. Great guy. Learned a lot from him in the turkey woods. And he was one of my main guys growing up. And then as I got a little bit older, I'm a big baseball guy. And I did not know that Chipper Jones was a hunter until, he pretty much retired and started Major League Bow Hunter. And I'm like, dude, I've been watching you hit home runs for 20 years as a kid, and now you got a bow in your hand. Didn't know, so I started watching him a lot. And then, of course, we all know that Bo Jackson is a big outdoorsman now, and he's one of the guys I kind of follow too. So I had a few influences like that growing up. So it was cool to follow those guys, because I know back in the day, we didn't have YouTube. So we got most of our stuff from DVDs, magazines, and what you've seen on TV. So I'd always try to get the new Drury Outdoors tape or the new Primos tape or whatever I could from flea markets and stuff like that, and go home and watch that stuff and try to put it all together, So it was pretty cool. So.
Well, that's good. I'm very familiar with Bo Jackson. Over in this neck of the woods here, there was a carbon fiber company that tried making arrows for a period of time, and they won the contract to work with Bo on it, and it did not. They don't know, as far as I know, they no longer make carbon arrows, but it was one of those things that the company was trying to branch out to and see if it could be a profitable thing. It's the owner was a bow hunter and wanted to try to be able to create his own and pull it off, but it's a challenge because I believe it's pultrusion or extrusion. I'm not 100% sure on how they make their carbon fiber, but usually they'll use carbon fiber weavings and they use some type of a resin to put it all together. It's an accurate science. I used to work for two different companies that made fiberglass products, and yeah, it's all about balancing out the chemical equation essentially, and all the ingredients that go into it. It's baking, but on a cancerous level, I should say, because a lot of the chemicals are not the healthiest.
I'd say so. I'd say that's a pretty dangerous business to get into, and you'd have to be pretty precise.
Yeah,
with that stuff.
It's a big upfront cost to begin the process. So it's like it's from what I've understand, it's usually always the guys or companies' second or third business that are buying to add to their portfolio, because it's a lot to upfront cost to get everything operational. And basically have to develop your own substation for how much electricity you use.
I got you. So, Bucks of America, how did this podcast come about, and how did you come up with the name for it?
Oh, okay. So I started this with working with Cody Neer and Zach New. Both have been on my podcast multiple times. So Cody Neer is the owner of Bucks of America. He's created this. He started with Bucks of Nebraska back in 2011. And now he's grown Bucks of Nebraska to a very reputable, and it has some notoriety for their hats and their clothing line, stuff like that. And it's just a way to pay homage to your college, but also to identify that you're a hunter. And so we had every single state and all that fun stuff. And we grew it to a point where we were able to sell it. And after a period of time, after they sold it, the people that bought it didn't maintain it and didn't keep it up. So it basically has stopped in existence. So Bucks of Nebraska is still around, but that's it. So as for Bucks of America, I just kind of played off with asking if I could do it, and they gave me the green light to move forward. So I did that. And I've spent about, a year, 2 years listening to different podcasts, because at the time back in 16, 17, there's only a handful of podcasts. I mean, there's probably a few thousand, but there's a few popular ones at that time that really stuck out. And I listened to a lot of Joe Rogan, followed up with Randy Newberg, Steve Ranella. Who else was an influence too? Tom Green. He was a positive influence too as well. And just listening to the different styles to figure out, where do I fit in this niche? Because it is a competitive market. And I find that I really like the hunting community, because they don't care about followers or view counts. They're more focused on the quality of the content and what they like to do. So that's what I want to do. I wanted to be people that excite me, that I don't know anything about, or just someone I don't know enough about that particular avenue. So I just spent better part of the last several years is building a library of that information. So this way, then somebody can listen to it. And if some of the people are regional, some of them are national, but it's an opportunity for them to come across a product that they may have not been used, or listen to stories, strategies, techniques. I really recommend people listen to Rendell Eric. He is 6'8", absolutely amazing human being. And he shoots big bucks out of saddles. And he has a plethora of knowledge. And he had, at one point in time, longest time, he was actually shooting a shorter length bow. And he finally got himself one that actually fits him, because he has a 33-inch draw length. And man, it is a game changer for him. So he's been able to get out and hunt frequently and such. He actually works with Osseo. His career is just taken off. He really has a knack for knowledge and woodmanship. That is another thing that is a new thing that we're used to it, because we grew up in the woods. We understand a level of woodmanship that allows us to be successful hunting deer, quail, pheasants, rabbits, such. So we have that, but there's a lot more people that don't know how to do it. Now you're just trying to find your own voice encourage them to do it. And it could be just simply going out walking trails and identifying vegetation and foods and stuff like that. Because, having that skill set gives you an opportunity to at least survive if something bad were to happen,
Right.
And it's just way to work with all that stuff out. So yeah, with those guys' blessings, I kind of just went from there, spent the time looking for it. Then I started buying equipment and starting investing in it and learning a lot. Because when I first started, there wasn't any AI. You had to learn everything yourself by trial and error. Some of my earlier podcasts, some of the renderings are not the best, but I don't have the originals for it. So so I can't really go back and edit everything as a raw format. So this way that I can go and tweak it. Because somewhere along the lines, I lost a hard drive. And that is one of the biggest lessons you'll learn too as well. Have 2 backups.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to tell you that right now, because it's like you could have one stolen, misplaced, but if you always have one at home, you're good to go. Because when I travel around, in the initial time, I had it was like 14-inch screen laptop, only had like 200 gigs of space in it. With audio and video, it eats up a lot of space, especially if you record at a higher rate of frame rate. So kind of been slowly moving everything down to this way that I can do it in the field and do podcasts wherever I want to go, which I have. I developed a system from PodTrack. It has 4 XLR mics, and now I'm able to travel and go do podcasts in the tree stand, ground blinds, ice huts out there on the ice too. I did multiple podcasts this year out on the ice. That was fun. That was cool. Then the days that didn't catch fish, or the days we did catch fish. So that's where I'm at now. It's like it's been a long arc. And then I found myself working with HHA USA, going there and recording podcasts and such for Chris Ham and his brother Brian Ham for HHA Sports. That's been a wonderful what's I'm looking for?
Experience.
Experience, relationship. It's just amazing. And it's like through him, it's like my whole entire podcast changed. Like July 4th, 2020, excuse me. My whole entire podcast, my whole shift, my whole focus changed and such. And then I wanted to focus more and also bring in values and morals and ethics and bring in parents that are teaching young kids. It is about expanding and finding out what allows them to do what they do or how they balance it all. Because if you're a man that's married or a woman that's married, you need to have some type of a balance, and getting perspectives from both sides, that both a husband and wife hunt and fish. It's good to get that perspective, because then this way, then it helps people get an idea to how to negotiate and compromise in your marriage. Because you're married, I'm married, you have to have a balance of it all. You can't be one-sided of the whole thing. So like Randy Newberg says, is like anytime he does something, he always adds like an extra 5,000, because just to say thank you to his wife for allowing him to go out and do this stuff with him, his son, his friends. It's a way to balance things out, and you're not feel like the other person is being left in the background.
Yeah, for sure. That balance is yes, it's necessary. When I was still getting a check from, workman's comp and stuff like that when I got hurt, but it wasn't the same as me going to work, bringing home a paycheck every week. So my wife, man, she really grinded out, worked some extra hours when she needed to. She really stepped up, and proud of her for that. And so for Mother's Day this year, I upgraded her vehicle.
That Yukon, right?
Oh yeah, we had got her a Yukon. So because she had a Malibu, which we had an SUV when my son was first born, and she's like, "Well, I want a car now," because she was driving a lot back and forth to work. She'd drive almost an hour to work, an hour from work. It's a 2-hour round trip, just costing a lot in gas. But now that she's at home, I was like, "Yeah, we need something bigger. You deserve it. You've been, grinding, helping me out. I know you love me because." She was always real positive. You'll get back to work eventually. You'll get back in the woods eventually. Just take it easy, take it slow. She was a game changer for me, not slipping into that slight depression that I was talking about earlier that you could, possibly go into for not being able to get out somewhere that the passion that you have, So shout out to my wife. I know she listened to the podcast, so she definitely grinded and helped me out a lot. Now, pretty much everything's somewhat back to normal. Getting everything back into work. I didn't know how out of shape I was until the first day I went back to work, and I work in a rick house. I work for Jeff Vance. So I put the barrels in the rick houses for aging, and if it's 100 degrees outside, if you're up on the 9th floor in those houses, it's about 120 degrees in those.
Oh, easy. Those rick houses get insanely hot.
Yeah, they get hot. So, but yeah, shout out to her. You definitely got to have that balance and everything like that. But I was wondering, you said something there that I kind of want to touch on. So I've had a lot of people hit me up and ask me, about doing podcasts outside of my studio here online. And I'm just like, I had to research it. So how do you personally, if you were to say me and you were in the same room, say we met at like a NWTF or something, or Bucks of America banquet or something like that, and we wanted to do a podcast that night, how would you go about setting it up where we're both in the same room, same camera and everything like that? Like, run me down how that works, because I'm trying to figure that out.
So when you're doing, so we'll start with the camera. Everybody has cell phones. That's the easiest thing. What I would recommend doing is that we would both turn our phones on to some type of platform to go live, because it's like it all depends on how you want to look at this. You can go live with it, or you can simply just straightforward just record each other, or how to position your camera to be able to do so, because it's just the biggest thing is making sure your camera has enough space. We're lucky now in this day and age where you can get a terabyte hard drive on your cell phone. On I know Samsung has it. Don't quote me on Apple. I don't use Apple, so I don't know 100%. So that would be to solve that problem. I always recommend going live, because it's always a little bit more, you're in the element, and it's all comes down to your background, your setting. So if you can get a background of basically someone of a picture, if you're doing a setting and down together. But if I like to do mine at the shoot, so I usually try to use the backdrop of the practice range if there's enough service. That's usually the biggest thing, is like if there's enough service or not, or if you have Wi-Fi to go from there. But the board I would use, I just sent it to you in the chat. It's called the Zoom P4 podcast recorder. So it has 4 XLR mics, inputs for it, 4 headphones. It has a phone input. You could do a sound pad too, as well as that's the A, B, C, and D on it. You can just the audio and all the headsets. You can shut off specific mics. You can turn it to Bluetooth. It's an all-in-one wonderful little thing, and you get supports up to. I use a 32 gig SD card, but you can get bigger ones. But most of the time, you're not going to record 20 some hours worth of material unless you're basically recording your entire adventure. But it's kind of pointless without video, And that's what I would use. But the next thing I'll use is lapel mics. That is where it comes into play. Lapel mics are very simple. You can get the ones that have XLR input or output, and you run those up and such onto your hats. Like, it's always nice when your guests wear hats, because then it brings the microphone up and on top of here. And then if you have a beard like I do, you're not having to hear the whiskers run across the microphone. It can be kind of annoying. But lapel mics can run you in between $40 to $100 some dollars. The real nice ones are from Rode, but their microphones are only 2-channel. And if you want to, like, I like to have groups. So it's like there hasn't been a system developed to have 4 wireless mics through 1 receiver, as far as I'm aware. Technology changes rather rapidly, but I just kind of go for the XLR mics. It's just, and plus in this way, then if I'm at home and in my studio and we want to do it outside or something, I have different options for it. But one thing I will recommend to the audience, if you're going to do a podcast or get into any audio, do not buy cheap mics, because all you did is waste that money. You wasted that time, and you got to start all over again. I mean, I bought cheap mics. I got these XLR converters to these to work these, and it didn't work at all. It was just trash. Couldn't get the audio right. So, but yeah, that's my biggest thing I like to drill home is get good mics. Headsets, you can take it or leave it. I don't wear a headset all the time, but like I don't know if you've seen those YouTubers, but this band right here starts to dig into your skull and it changes your shape of your skull. So it's like that's just a little dangerous. So it's like I'll do this. But yeah, that's a basic breakdown of it all. And I got lucky with mine. We were just happening to go through Best Buy here in La Crosse, Wisconsin. I looked down, they had a pod mic. And they were selling it for $88. At full price, they were selling it for is like they were selling it for $200 for it, or $250. They had it for $88. But if you go to their website, you can pick it up. You can pick up the board for $150.
Okay, gotcha. Cool, man. Thanks for that info, because I've, especially when I'm going on some of these hunts that I plan on going on, I'll have my computer with me, but like if I'm sitting in a room with somebody, like I actually want to get, have us both sit down, mic us up and, go from there. So that's, I've always wondered how people do that. I know, some of the bigger names like your, buck commanders and all them, they've got the money to, call somebody like, hey, we're about to do a podcast, bring all your stuff, they can just pay somebody to do it and edit it and all that stuff. I haven't got that big yet, maybe one day, but I'm still in the learning stages. So I appreciate that, man.
Mm-hmm. And there is another one that Track created called the P8, and that one has 6 XLR inputs. It's a little bit bigger board, but it's $300. Well, $350 or so, depending on when you catch on sale. But if you're traveling with a crew, this is another alternative for it too as well. So this is maybe a popular one as well. I know Podcaster or Pod has their own series too as well. So there's a lot of options that you can choose from to whatever fits your situation. So these are just the ones that I recommend, and it's not that it depends on where you're at in your budget, but it could be real cheap to replace or it could be real expensive to replace, but it hits all the marks you're looking for to be able to record and have it all inputted into one board, so you're not carrying a second piece of equipment with you out in the wilderness, like camping or hiking or something.
Sounds good, man. Well, let's talk a little bit about the hunting industry and the community itself. So in your eyes, what are some of the biggest problems and challenges facing the outdoor community today?
Social media gives a level of too much pride, but also like people feel shame and disappointed because they weren't able to shoot a 8 or a 10 or a 12 or a 14 or a 200 class buck or something like that. And I feel it makes people bashful about putting their bucks up online. There are some groups that I'm part of that have done a really good job of removing the haters and providing a round of applause. But sometimes when you're looking on social media outside these groups, that's where you get your most hate. And it comes from the lack of knowledge and why we do this and such. And you have to really like think about like what it all involves and such. And what was I going with this here? It's your interactions with Instagram and Facebook and such. And that lack of knowledge isn't necessarily ignorance, is that they just don't know what they don't know. And as a steward, you have to provide really good information. And I always have just go online, find articles that really paint hunting in a positive light and showing the downsides of mismanagement. We've seen the pictures of bears breaking into houses or cats, big cats like bobcats, mountain lions, and stuff like that, going after smaller animals. It's just a matter of time when one of these animals kills a human, and which has happened. It's been happening for centuries, but it's allowing them to understand why we do this. And that's what I found is the biggest hurdle to be able to achieve, because people are so disconnected because they don't have to be connected that much anymore. They can just get up, go down to the grocery store and get their food. So they don't know where it comes from. And it's
Right.
also, they don't want to know either. So it is what it is. And you just got to come with it until we have a situation or catastrophic event where we will excel, where they won't, in a sense. But there's still only so much food to go around. If, like, let's say a power outage happens, we lose a substation from an EMP blast. I mean, these are all real world scenarios that could happen, and they're going to get caught with their pants down. And then therefore they become a very dangerous person, because when they are desperate, they're going to do desperate things. And that's when they don't think clearly, because it's the lack of knowledge, essentially. But yeah, that's where I find that when it comes down to negativity and positivity, it's all depends on the audience you're reaching and how it comes across their feed.
Yeah, I'm one of them guys, man. Like I love to get on social media during, gun season, archery season, whatever, and just look at the bucks that people, or the does that, people have harvested. And it's just awesome to see. It helps the sport out and whatever. But then you get in the comments, and some of them comments are, well, I remember my first buck that I shot, or I remember I killed, first time I killed Bambi's dad, and why'd you shoot that deer? This, and this. And I'm like, dude, like, why can't you just give the guy, the kid, or whoever it is, some kudos about harvesting that deer? It might have been his first deer that he ever shot, and you're just downing him for no reason. Like, it pisses me off, to be honest with you, just to see some of the negative comments. And I've said this before on a podcast, but I talked to a guy down the road. I was at a gas station down the road from me. This older man. It was during gun season. We both had our orange on, and he comes up to me. He's like, "How you doing, young fella?" I said, "How you doing, sir?" And we get to talking. He said, "This is my favorite time of the year." I said, "Me too." He said, "Why is it your favorite time?" He said, "Well, my wife's passed on, and he said, I have nobody in the house with me anymore. So this time, these 2 weeks that we have here in Kentucky to go out and harvest deer with your rifle is the most fun time that I can actually get out of the house, and I can provide meat for me for pretty much the entire year." And when you put it into that type of perspective, it kind of hits different to you. He's at home by himself. His wife's not there anymore. I think he said they were married for like 54 years.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
impressive. Hats off to
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. So he's just in the house by himself until those 2 weeks of gun season where he can go outside and harvest some does or whatever he needs to do to feed himself until the next year comes around. And that's when it all came together for me about, why we're out here. We don't need to be downing people for taking deer. Like, we need to be encouraging everybody, because you never know what somebody's situation is or whatever. So, like you said, social media can be used for good, and it can also be used for bad. So I always try to use for good, first time hunters, even hunters that have been hunting forever, like you and me, just give them that support, give them that thumbs up, that comment. Hey man, congratulations, good buck, good doe, stuff like that. So, but yeah, that really put it in perspective for me, talking to that old man. And it was awesome how we sat there for about 30 minutes at the gas pump, just just talking, So yeah, that was a good conversation.
I can relate to that. Growing up in the 80s and such, it was easier to go out and shoot the meat and get at what you needed over the course of the year than it was to afford to go buy stuff, because everybody was at the time with different pay levels and such. And living in rural Iowa, it just made sense because to eat it. And my dad had a habit of hitting deer, not on purpose. It's just that it was just poor timing on the deer. Luckily for him, he drove a 77 heavy Chevy with the full metal grill in the front. So killing deer was not uncommon. So it's like having him break down deer all the time was not uncommon to see throughout the course of the year. You get a depredation tag and go from there. But we always had meat, and it's like he actually had to fight the county to remove a bunch of trees where all the deer were setting at. So this way, then people would stop hitting them. And that area is still known for it's off of T38 in Mitchell County, and they're famous for the suicidal deer, because in that area there's a lot of deer movement, lots of buck movement through that area right through there, and it is not uncommon to see a bunch of deer up and down the sides of the roads there. So as time has progressed, more and more houses moved into that area because, well, it's nice, and it removed a lot of the gorgeous landscape, but it pushed the tree line several hundred yards back, so they're not as mobile as they used to be when they come on that area. But there's still a few pinch points where there's a lot of movement for deer and such, for bedding and whatever. And yeah, it was an interesting growing up, stuff like that, like learning about, like, you can't eat the bruised meat and you have to cut it all away, and you really have to have a knack for it to see if it's value, if it has if it's good enough to eat or not.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, we've kind of got a spot here in our county. It's kind of going down 357, going through to Hart County. There's like a little patch of woods that you kind of got to go around this little curve, and it's just, there's always deer either in the road or about to cross the road. You got to be really careful, especially at night, going through there. Even in the daytime, there's a lot, like what you said, suicidal deer. They'll just come and either hit your car, truck, or whatever. And trucks ain't made like they used to be, so you hit a deer now, you're going to be doing some major damage, and possibly, getting another truck because you're going to total that one. So I definitely know what you're talking about there for sure. But
and you can always know when somebody's already hit a deer is because their next vehicle always have a brush guard. Guaranteed.
Yep.
You see all the
Every
time.
time.
You can tell when they get it. It's like that person's hit a deer or two.
Yeah. Or those, my mom, she hit a deer when I was in high school coming back home. She was a teacher. She was coming back home late from a meeting, and she got her car fixed, and she ended up putting those little, remember those little deer whistles that you put on the front of your car?
Yeah, I remember those back in the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, she still has those on her car now. I'm like, Mom, I don't know if these work, but she hadn't hit a deer since. So I don't know if it's, good luck or whatever for her, but it seems to work. So
I remember them too as well. My dad said they don't work, but it's like he just, where he would drive from had really good pinch points. He worked for LR Falk for 30 plus years, and so they're all throughout northern Iowa, and a lot of the crew and the owners were hunters and stuff. So as they got done using areas or shutting down quarries and such, they would redo the agriculture and such to give it a habitat for the deer and wildlife and stuff like that. So yeah, it was always fun. My dad, we would sometimes go and hunt some of their properties, and yeah, some days we're successful, some days we weren't. It was just kind of a crapshoot. But one thing that I have adapted is from a friend of mine that served in Iraq from 2003 to 2007, and he did convoy driving and such. And one of the things that he wear are those amber lenses that you wear at the gun ranges and such.
yeah.
And I've been wearing them now for 2011, 2010 or something like that. I use them when I drive, and it really helps the glare that you receive from when you're passing by signs or the reflection off of the objects. You're able to see past it, and I've been able to avoid several accidents over the years, and I recommend anybody to adding that to your arsenal. And especially when you're dealing with oncoming traffic, it helps reduce that LED glare from that's coming through your windshield, because those new LEDs are bright, and not everybody has the quick enough reaction time to shut them off as you're passing. Because I just drove down to Illinois this past weekend for the 4th, and it doesn't surprise me every time I drive through Iowa how many people don't shut their brights off, and it's just frustrating. So what I've adopted now these days is that I'll hold my brights on until they shut theirs off. So this way, then it's like I could be the asshole, but not be the one having my eyes blinded, and it works. It works. They really catch themselves rather rapidly. Some of the nicer vehicles do have a system where they will auto on, auto off, but the cheaper your car, like we had a Lincoln, and that was instantaneous on, off, just worked out seamlessly. Our new Nissan, that that is just got a horrible delay after people drive by. And it's just, you can definitely tell the programming and the engineers go to the higher priced vehicles. So the better ones do at least. And it was just not very good technology. And the funny thing is that our Lincoln was a 2016. This was a 2020. So hopefully by that time, the 2016 technology got cheap enough for the 2020 technology to utilize in their vehicles, but apparently not in Nissan.
Yeah, not Nissan. That's funny.
Yeah.
Those new LED lights are bright. I've got a Ram, and it's they're super bright, especially when the bright lights are on. And even when I don't have my brights on, I'm always getting flashed by other cars, and I'm like, dude, my brights aren't even on. But
it happened to us all the time in the Lincoln. It's something about LEDs, man. They pump out so much light, and it's very difficult because I don't know if you've experienced this yourself, but have you ever been driving at night and you pass a vehicle and you look up and you see them hit a deer? Has it happened to you yet?
I've never seen that yet.
Dude, it is wild when you see it happen, because it happened to me going into Osage, Iowa here, probably 10 years ago or so. And I was going like this, and the area that we're driving through was known to have deer cross that way. And I look up my rearview mirror, look out back, and I see the vehicle hit the deer. And then they had a vehicle right behind them, so both of them slammed on their brakes, so they would hit each other. This is where, when you're driving at night, do not ride their tail, because if the deer jumps out, it's not going to be good for both of you, because now the person that just hit the deer just got hit in the back too as well. So it's always wise to keep that separation, especially during the morning and during the night. For you and I, it's common sense, because this is when the deer move. And sure enough, like when we were driving down through to Davenport, Iowa, Dubuque, Iowa, I saw so much deer coming out of the weeds, out of the corn. We were on 20 going eastbound, and I watched this doe walk right up like it was like a Lion King moment, and it's right on the side of the road. I'm watching my rearview mirror. It's like, please don't hit the deer and please don't get hit. It's one of those things where you don't want anybody to get hurt, but it's like, please just don't move. And when you're driving on 2-lane roads, you can, if you had the opportunity to, you can slow down, you can honk your horn, then you'll see the deer just run off and stuff like that. Because once they get back down there, they're going to buy you a little more time before they come back across, because now they're startled. Have you ever encountered that where you've spooked a deer and all of a sudden, like 5 minutes later, they show up?
Yeah, I've done that a few times. That's happened more than I can count, for sure.
Yeah, it happened to me with bucks. It's happened with does and stuff like that. And it's just one of those things where it's like, you don't think your hunt's busted just because you spooked the deer, because it's like sound waves only go so far. And through some of the most recent studies coming out of Pennsylvania, out of UPenn, they were talking about like their hearing is just as good as humans when you're in the woods, because you got to think of the sound waves as they bounce off all the trees and such. They're not going to hear all that stuff. And then you add in wind, you add in leaves rustling. That's why I've heard some of my dad's friends, like when you hunt in the fall time, make as much noise as you want, because it's one of those when you're going through leaves, because it doesn't really know what's going to go on, because it's going to overwhelm the sound. I've also learned that depending on how experienced the deer are, they will also pick up on a bipedal cadence. And that is one thing that can, like, why some, like we see Randy Newberg and a few others use ski poles, because now they have 4 impacts. But whether it was the same thing or not, I don't know. It's tough to really gauge that information unless you set up a study perfectly to be able to pull that off and have the control group in such a confined area that you're able to get that type of reaction. So it's tough to really gauge. I don't know. Sometimes it's just hogwash, but you still, the principle of the matter is be as quiet as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was on a hunt once, and my uncle had just made his own deer house. Basically, he didn't want to buy one because they're pretty expensive. He said, "I'll make my own." So he's outside banging away, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm building my own deer house." Put it on like these little slats where he could pull it with the tractor. And from the outside, it looked okay. Inside, it looked awful, but it was a place to sit, get out of the warmth. So this was open morning. He couldn't go that morning because he had something else to do. He said, I'll be back there with you this evening. I said, okay, no problem. So I get back there that morning and kind of laid my rifle in front of me on this 2x4. And the window's here. You got windows all around you. And buck comes in on my left side about 9:30, 10 o'clock. Beautiful buck. I've actually got him, not the one behind me, but he's over here on the wall, kind of by my gun safe. And as I'm opening the window, my rifle kind of hits something in there. It causes a whole bunch of racket. He looks, he darts off. So I'm sitting here just like, well, I'm getting all my stuff together because I'm like mad. I was like, I'll come back this afternoon. Well, as I got my backpack on my back and I'm about to stand up, I think probably 20, 25 minutes had passed. Well, I'll be dang if he don't come right back to where he was in that field and he's looking dead at me. And I've got my rifle in my hand at this point. And, he knows something was there earlier, 20 minutes ago. So I'm just sitting still. And he finally, I guess, didn't think I was danger. And he puts his head back down looking for does. Broadside shot, maybe 95, maybe 100 yards. Ended up harvesting him. And that's the first time that had happened to me. So, like, I tell people now, if that happens to you where you spook a deer, like, sit still. He'll probably come back, or she'll probably come back. And 9 times out of 10, just stay still. They're going to come back.
Exactly. It takes you to that first experience to really have it sink in, because you never know how long it's going to be. Because I've had it where I had a basket 6. I was sitting in my ghost blind. It saw itself in the reflection. Are you familiar with ghost blinds?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this buck comes walking down this fence line. I have a buddy of mine hunting a few hundred yards away, and he lets me know that, hey, I see movement, but I have no idea what it is. And the buck comes right down, gets within 5 yards of the ghost blind. He looks up. He sees himself. It's like the next, I don't know what the word, the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes is incredible, because as I'm sitting, because I have a big maple tree behind me, so he comes this side, he goes all the way back, literally 180, and then he comes all the way back over, gets back to do it again, trying to figure out what's going on. He jumps over, and then 5 minutes later, he shows up 50 yards away, but it's too dark for me to pull off a shot. But he would have gave me a broadside shot, but it was just too dark, and I just didn't want to risk it. So I just I'm gonna just let him walk and then just save him for tomorrow morning. Well, then I don't know. Was it a different property? I shot a deer here, and another shot. I shot at a doe. What ended up happening is that I was in this tree stand on public land. All of a sudden, I must have stepped on my my belt clip for my backpack, and then tinged, and that deer just turned around and just ran off. 25 minutes later, 30 minutes later, she comes walking out 25 to my my left-hand side there, and I had ranged out this spot where if she walks, whatever walks this area, it's 25 yards. So I already had I was watching her come through, had my HG sight dialed it to 25 yards, drew back, and she stepped right, let her go. And this is where I had the experience about broadhead tuning your bow sight. And that's where I spent, me and my buddy, my tractor for over 400 yards, and she took off into a property that we didn't have access to, and it was too late at night. We even brought in a friend of ours that helped us track as well. So there's 2 people tracking for it. I came out the next day to see if I can at least recover the animal or see what ended up happening to it. Well, we found the deer went uphill, so that's when we recognized that the arrow went through the brisket in the very front. So it just a clean pass through. The deer survived. So then I come hunt the next year, and that same property that was in the public land, they pulled it out of the program. So I was like, son of a gun.
Couldn't even go back in there.
Yeah, so couldn't even go back in there to see if I could find a skull or something. But when the night before opening day, my wife and I went and had dinner down to where we hunted at over by Stoddard. And we was like, hey, let's go on out there. We went out there early. Nothing was going on because it was still like 80 degrees outside. Then after dinner, sun was still up. It's like, hey, let's run back over here. It's only like a mile away. It's really pretty. Sure enough, here's a basket 8, 4 does run on my total leash. Is like, that is all my tags punched right there. That entire group, I'm done. I'm done for the season. And then it's like I go back home, just do my research, and I look at Onyx, not there. I go to the Wisconsin DNR website. That's when I found out they pulled it from the program. It's like, son of a gun. It's like, son of a gun. Man, it's like all these years I've been hunting it, and then finally have the opportunity that I saw them and such. And it's like, son of a gun.
Yeah.
It is what it is, I guess.
It is what it is. Part of it, but
Now I just pay money to hunt on private land in Nebraska.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I'm a big private land guy. Luckily, I can still hunt the farm that I grew up on, and then a friend of mine's got some property the next county over. I can hunt anytime I want. So blessed to be able to have that private land to hunt and pretty much do what I want to on there, and cut shooting lanes and all that stuff, and do that, and do a little bit of baiting out there. Kentucky, we can bait here. But I know on public land you can't, so you can't cut shooting lanes or anything. I feel like it's a little harder on public, but on private, I can pretty much go out there and get my food plots right and everything like that. And my son is 7 years old, about to turn 8, so he's kind of wanting to do daddy, everything daddy wants to do. So he's usually riding me. Daddy, you need to shoot that one. Daddy, you need to shoot that. Can I shoot that one? Like, no, he's just a little bit too small, bud. But we'll get you one. So. But yeah, man, continuing on, I got a couple more questions here to ask you. Like generational gaps seem to be a big thing now with, the younger hunters and the older hunters. Like, do you see any generational gaps or like misunderstandings between like your older hunters versus like your newer hunters, whether that be technique wise or anything that you can think of?
The only thing that I've really noticed between so I'm an elder millennial. Some of the people I hunt with are Gen Xers. My dad was the boomer generation. Then I have friends that are millennials. Now, the only thing that I see that's really changed is access. When you talk to the old boomers, it wasn't uncommon just for you just to keep on walking. You could walk over fences and just keep on going. That's what it was like during some of my dad's friends when they were hunting stuff like that throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s, because there wasn't a lot of deer, but it's like you would be able to have the opportunity to just if you're hunting rabbits or squirrels, you just keep on going through. Nowadays, they get up. You have to make sure you have permission to hunt every single one, and a lot of now because of lawsuits of the insurance companies, people now put their land into leases to be able to protect themselves from it. Because if I go hunting on your property, you give me permission, even though even in some state bylaws that they can be absolved of accident being sued. So it's just a matter of how much money you have and the insurance money have. Because if I break a knee or break an ankle or something like that, or do something bad on your property, I could claim it's without thinking about it. You can get your friend's property in trouble because they're going to put a lien on it because they're going to want to get their money back somehow.
Right. That's for sure. Yeah.
And so that's why we've seen that.
Yeah. Nowadays, I tell everybody, if they end up getting access for somebody, get it in writing, get it notarized, make sure, both parties agree. So if something does happen, you're covered and they're covered. You don't usually have to worry about it. Not saying that's ever going to happen, but you never know. There's always that possibility of you going out there, like you said, breaking an ankle or something, and it's a possibility. So, segueing into another question, like I know a lot of people give hunters a bad rap, bad name. So how do you think going forward we can do a better job at protecting this sport moving forward?
Well,
kind of a loaded question, but
there's quite a bit of context for that, because you have to look at it in perspective wise. during the 30s and 40s and 50s, there's a lot of gun accidents. Like there's a lot of reports of stating that. But as we've implemented new regulations, new safety guidelines, new orange clothing and such, also hunter safety, all these measures have definitely drastically dropped the amount of accidents. Like we now only have maybe 1 to 3 a year, if that. And sometimes there's a lot of suicides. So that has to be taken in account of it. But all these other precautions that we have managed ourselves has dropped that death rate and incident rate a lot. I mean, it's absolutely amazing that we've been able to come over the last plus or minus 100 years of publicly tracking hunting records, I should say, because we've been hunting for centuries, but publicly tracking them and accidents, stuff like that, and licenses, that's only been since the 30s when they needed to start taxing it to be able to support public access and public lands and build and keep all that stuff afloat. During the Pittman-Robertson Act, to be able to keep funding all this stuff, all these, and to be able to buy more land and such. But that seems to be a dying situation. As a public view of it, all it comes down is to help those is our recruiting numbers, and is to go after the men or women that recently just graduated college and get them back into it. College has been a big stifler with it, because they could hunt and fish all their youth, but they get to college, then they are no longer they no longer have time to do this, or they have a girlfriend, or they get married, or they have kids right in that 25 to 30-year-old range. That's the real market you need to target to be able to get people back in, because they may not have enough money to buy like a flagship bow, but they can buy a 4 or 5-year-old bow that's in working condition, good limbs and such. That's where we have to really focus on, is recruiting them out of the ones that are graduating high school and getting them back into it. We've been very fortunate now that we've seen bow hunting pick up because of Steve Ranella, Joe Rogan, Cam Haynes. There's some rock stars out there. Myself, yourself, we both bow hunt. So there's a lot of positive influences out there to get them in there. Just showing them that archery is not about the hunt. It's about being in the now and being disconnected. Where I hunt over here, I have no service, so it works out for me. But for those that have service, they're always on their phone. It's like you have to be able to disconnect and be in the now and be in nature. So that's my answer to that complex question there, because that's just one avid answer that I thought that would fit.
Okay, yeah. I was talking to Trey about this the other day, and he said his answer was like food. A lot of people give hunters a bad name, bad rap, until they taste the food and they're like, oh, this is actually really good. And then you tell the story about that animal, and then it's like, oh, this all happened, and you ended up harvesting this deer or this elk or whatever. Like, yeah, and this is, primarily why we do it, is putting food on the table. Yeah, it's still a sport at the end of the day, but you kill an elk, man, you're going to eat on that thing for a good year and a half, because you get so much meat that you're bringing home.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's a lot of avenues that you could take to, like you said, to answer that question. Like I said, it's kind of a loaded question. I like to try to ask that question to pretty much all my guests, just to see their answers to it. And you provided a pretty good answer, so I'm down with it.
Yeah, I do like pretty tasty animals is a good good opportunity to teach people what it is all involved with, because now it gives them an appreciation for the animal. That is a lot of arguments, is being able to provide them a taste of the animal and let them know how it was raised, what kind of freedom it truly had. And you're also providing balance to the ecosystem. This way you don't have them eat themselves out of house and home. But right now it's like this is the highest amount of wildlife we've had since pre-Civil War era. So we are in the good old days. So it's very nice that some people are willing to share their deer and such with others, to give them that experience. And it's like, I don't give away my deer, but what I will do is that if you come to my house, I will give you a taste of it and give you a insight about the animal and where it lived at and what it would have experienced throughout the winters and summers.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's kind of what I'd kind of do. You know, people come over, and, you know, everybody wants the deer jerky, so I'll break out some deer jerky or whatever, and then cook some backstrap on the grill and kind of tell the story of it. And they're very intrigued usually by the story, and then there's just like, man, I kind of want to possibly get into this, and then there you go, a new hunter's born, usually something like that, you know. So, but going back to your podcast, Bucks of America, um, are there any dream guests or topics that you'd love to, or any big names that you'd like to get on your podcast that you haven't got on there yet?
Hank Shaw would be one. I really appreciate his knowledge of cooking. It would be I would love to be able to cook with him and record a podcast afterwards and just break bread with the man, just to have that fellowship. And I feel like that he has really captured the soul of hunting and putting a beautiful flavor to wild game. He just he has buck moose, a bunch of different. He's got multiple fishing or cookbooks, but he would be a wonderful guest. Babe Winkleman would be a guy I'd love to have on my podcast. It's one of those things where I don't know him and I don't know enough people to get in touch with him because he's kind of been out of not necessarily out of the game, but just like he's just more with focusing on family. He would be a phenomenal person to have a conversation with. But I've been very fortunate to have some really phenomenal guests on my podcast that work in the industry, killed monster bucks, make knives, make bows, bowstrings. So it's the sky's the limit. You just got to be able to find a way to connect with that person or how to get connected with said person to be able to open that door up, and then just commit to it. That's the biggest thing. I have Trey next Monday, or this upcoming Monday, the 14th. Then tomorrow night, I have a podcast with, what's his name? Ty Christ. I always mispronounce his last name. Christian.
Christian, yeah.
Yeah. And I met him in Iowa at the Iowa Deer Classic 2 years ago, and we hit it off. We have a shared love of food, cigars, and bourbon.
You can't beat a good old cigar and a good old bourbon, man. Like I said, I work for Jim Beam, so they give us a lot of bourbon. I don't drink anymore, so it just kind of stays here for the people who do drink. When they come over, I give it away for Christmas presents. But I might have some bourbon. I can I'll talk to you about that off air if you're a bourbon connoisseur. So
when I saw Earl's Archery, man, it's like, I'm glad you guys got to have a connection to that, because Dustin is just a phenomenal human being in his development of developing solid arrows and designs and such. But he sent me a bottle of Old Elk that his dad used to work for, and that was just a tasty bourbon. But it's sad that what Dustin's going through, because he just lost his dad recently.
Yeah. Yeah, I hit him up a while back just to see how he was doing and making sure, everything was cool and everything. So just to kind of reach out to him, shout out. But love what he does. Great arrow maker. If you guys are looking for some arrows, give you a discount code for him. He makes everything in-house. He'll actually call you on the phone as he's going through the process to make sure it's got everything that you need and whatever. Like he's really good at what he does, and blessed to know somebody like that. So, but heck yeah, man. Really appreciate you, man. I think we're almost an hour and 30 minutes into this thing, man. So I really appreciate you hopping on podcast, and anything that like I said, I could ever do for you moving forward, you just holler at me and let me know. But one question I try to ask everybody on the podcast, kind of a loaded question as well, but you can kind of answer it to the best of your knowledge. What's your hope for the next generation of hunters in America?
Let's see here. It's for them to recognize that the public land is not only for hunters but for them also. We've been at war with Senator Mike Lee, and he proposed his last bill. He also did it 7 years ago too, and it seems like every time we have a Republican office, not to be political, but it's usually when they are in office is that when he tries to pull this stunt, because I find that there's a lot of things get taken away during a Republican what's what I'm looking for when there are Republicans in office, and it's just for those folks to pay attention to what's going on and to stop Mike Lee and anybody else to go after the public lands, because those are ours for a reason. And you can definitely tell that history is being not taught anymore about Teddy Roosevelt and his establishment of the national parks and such. That is what is missing right now in school. And we as parents, as hunters, and anybody that loves the outdoors, you could be out there for seeing birds, photography. You have to figure out like what is being taught in history. And if there's nobody covering this, they're going to be more likely to give away this privilege than to keep it. And they don't want to understand why it's so important, because if we don't step up and pay attention to that stuff, we'll end up coming like Europe, where you have to be rich to own it, be able to hunt the land. You have to, because we're already there. Like, to hunt private land and have a large swath of it, you either have to be a multimillionaire or you are paying money for a lease to be able to get access to that stuff. And it's up to us to be able to stop that from occurring and getting kids exposed to 4-H or doing extracurricular things about hunting or fishing or getting them outdoors. But that's the thing, is like with current schools, they don't get outside. They don't allow science to be science. They just keep them inside for 50 minutes and that's it. But part of science is to be able to get out there doing it. And so we really have to focus on a curriculum. The only way that changes is through parents. I just finished up a podcast with Dr. Jordan Peterson, and I'll have to send it, but they were discussing about how we have to change the culture of schools and what they teach to be able to change it. Now they're talking about giving money to parents that want to give their kids other options. During COVID, really changed things up in Texas and in Arizona, where they can pick their choices where they want to go to school. And in some of those public schools, they're dropping their funding so much because nobody wants to go to these schools because they're so bad. Right. And when you give the choice to the parents of where the kids can go, where that money goes, it's where you really win. Like over here in La Crosse, we have multiple groups that homeschool, but they're doing them in pods where they just kind of bounce around. Some of the parents will have different curriculums, so this way it's not all booked to one thing, and they don't treat it like school. You're not going to school from 8 to 3 or 8 to 4. You're going to school from just to do one or two lessons, so this way they have a chance to absorb that information. And it's really what it comes down to, is we have to get back in the schools or destroy the school system, Department of Education. That's the only way we're gonna be able to save hunting and such, because you can't put a mind like ours in school with the current climate they're in. And, it's where the things really have to change and be nurturing and getting us back into the land and identifying. Because I remember in the 90s when we would take road trips out to Des Moines, Iowa had the Amana homes, and it's basically it's a working farm that people work there, but it's like they teach. It's a basically a tourist trap. This way it shows like, hey, we still milk our cows. We have a farm here. It's like a live action farm, but people work there. Not always live there, because it's like they want to give a representation of what it was like during the pre-Civil War.
All right. I got you. Heck yeah, man. Jeff Vance, ladies and gentlemen. Jeff. So people that want to get a hold of you, social media wise, or want to check out your podcast, where can they find you at?
The upside is I have a link tree that has all of my socials on it, but I am on every platform, X, TikTok, along with Instagram and Facebook. I'm on all social media. It's pretty easy to reach out to me. I'm full of all stations where you'll speak directly to me. So I hope those that reach out, we can set something up. And my email address is really easy to find. So anyways, that's the best ways to reach out to me.
Sounds good, man. Like I said, man, appreciate you hopping on the pod. Anything I can ever do for you, let me know. This podcast will be out Apple Music or Apple Podcasts or YouTube and Spotify. It'll probably be out in a couple Mondays from now. Sportsman's Empire it'll be out there too. Any questions you have for me or Jeff, just holler at us on either of our social medias. We'll try to get back to you. We're usually pretty good at answering emails, messages, as long as it doesn't go in our spam folder. Sometimes it goes to the spam folder and we don't see it for a while. But yeah, man, Jeff, any last things for our listeners here?
I've had a busy week, but also an important week. I lost a uncle of mine on June 27th, but you don't know how much time you have, and so you need to really put it in perspective on how you want to spend it with your friends and your family. And like those who are thinking about starting a family or thinking about starting a legacy is look at how you want to spend your life with, and like how many kids you want to have, and make those decisions early on in your life, and then build a life to be able to hit those goals. And I think that will drive you to a point in your life of happiness and balance between work and family and having a connection with the Lord. There's just ways to be able to take advantage of that, and looking at your health and trying to do your best to be healthy, stay healthy, be active. That's the biggest thing, is like just get as much activity as possible. And with those who have the love of the outdoors, that's the upside. There's always a park. There's always a creek. There's always a beach to go to. It's like, just be outside, take advantage of our public lands, and understand what we have. It will not always be here, and you may not ever be able to enjoy it again. But keep that in mind when you are, as you progress through life and you're building your life. Just take a step back and look at, like, do I have the right people in my life? Do I get to meet people like Courtney here, and Trey, and Brandon Waddell, and Chris Ham, and Brian Austin, all these unique individuals that make life an adventure.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate that. Guest Jeff Vance, ladies and gentlemen. This is the We Do This Too Outdoors podcast. Big game, small game, all game. We do this too.
Country boy. I get up before the rooster, put on my camo, load up my bow and my rifle and stock the ammo. I'm a bullet with the bullet, but I'm lethal with the arrow. Always down for the hunt, dove, turkey, and big bucks. Hit the woods and get fitted up. Mossy oak all across my feet, don't be surprised, we do this too. I be up before the sun with my 30-06. Hard body on, I ain't worried about the kick. Yeah.